ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, my apologies that we had to start a little late, but our parliament session is going on, and there were important bills being passed in both houses of parliament. And given my responsibilities in parliament, it is not possible to leave until we were able to conclude the working of parliament for the day. So my sincerest apologies to all the distinguished guests from all over the Latin American and Caribbean countries. And I do hope you will appreciate, given that each one of you would have similar responsibilities in your countries. Friends, truly delighted to see this 9th edition of the LAC countries, all friends of India working together as partners, as colleagues, as people working for a better future for nearly 2 billion people on earth. It's wonderful to see all the youngsters on the dais, and gives me a lot of encouragement and hope that we can expand this relationship between our two regions, particularly given the long history that we share, our cultural ties over the years, the fact that many of us are emerging out of the shadows of a colonial past. And we in India are particularly keen to look at faster economic growth, faster expansion of our trade with friendly countries across the world, integration of our businesses through collaborations, through trade agreements, comprehensive economic agreements, through geopolitical expansion of our understanding on various issues. We do hope to see how the Caribbean and Latin American countries and India can work much better, expand our relations, and work for a better world for our children. In fact, we share very similar challenges also, but at the same time, we complement each other in very many areas. I wouldn't find too many areas where we would really compete with each other, maybe a few agricultural products at best. And I know that we have an ongoing dispute between some of the countries probably in this room. I think Brazil, Guatemala, Australia, and India have an ongoing dispute. For example, on the sugar trade. It's one of those rare instances where we are not able to come to terms. But otherwise, mostly these two regions, India and the LAC region, complement each other. In fact, I would think that one of the first elementary steps we should take is to determine what is the common areas, common grounds on which our businesses can work together, on which our government should be working together, and taking forward what the foreign minister said in the morning. I think there's a lot of scope for the LAC countries and India to integrate in each other's supply chains. Tremendous opportunities. So many areas where you can contribute to India's economic imperatives, our needs, whether it's critical resources, mineral wealth, many manufactured goods that also come in from the Latin American countries. I think if we were all to put our heads together and determine areas of cooperation, we would also be able to find solutions in areas where we may not be in a position to cooperate with each other. For example, I think Australia and possibly Brazil and India were almost on the verge of coming to terms on the sugar dispute that we have. But we probably failed at the last minute for one or the other reason. Why I'm giving this specific example is that unless we build up an atmosphere of trust and an atmosphere where we can work together as friends, we'll not be able to look at exponential growth in this relationship. I see that you are looking at doubling our bilateral trade in the next 5 years, from $45–50 billion to $100 billion. Mr. Banerjee and Mr. Dinesh will bear me out that that's not how I work. I find this to be very, very modest and very low ambition targets. If at all we are working as friends, if at all we believe that we can work with trust, if at all we recognize the opportunity between between India and these 44 countries probably in this LAC region, we have a 1.4 billion people population. You almost have half of that. So it's not as if we are very much different in terms of the size and scale of opportunity. We are today a $3.5 trillion economy, and you are about a $6 trillion economy in the aggregate. But the speed at which the Indian economy is growing gives me a pretty much a confidence that probably 7 or 8 years from now, at best 8 years probably, we'll both be at the same level of size of economy also. India has focused its energies in the last few years on meeting the basic needs of every Indian, whether it's food, clothing, shelter, education, healthcare, connectivity of different sorts, digital connectivity, infrastructure, utilities like power and water, our own effort to make sure that modern technology comes into the country in a big way to meet the emerging needs of our young population. When we look at these basic enablers having been provided for with very strong macroeconomic fundamentals, I think we have the 4th or 5th largest foreign exchange reserve in India today. We have the fastest growing large economy, 7% plus growth last year, expected to continue for several years in the future. Our population is young at about 28 years, mid-average age, and expected to be so for the next 3 decades. With all these enablers, we are looking at rapidly expanding our footprint and our engagement with the developed world. As we speak, I've lost count of the number of FTAs that we are already in dialogue with. UK, Canada, the 4-country EFTA region, the 27-country EU region, Israel. After concluding with UAE, I have 2 more requests from GCC countries to do it bilaterally, but there's also a request that the GCC would like to do it collectively. 1 or 2 of the countries in this room here have also indicated their interest to enter into a FTA with India. I have some requests from countries in the Asian continent to engage and rapidly wrap up a FTA. Russia and its friendly countries, I think it's Eurasia, they are looking at doing an FTA. So here is a situation where we are looking at expanding our footprint globally. And I do believe that the Latin American countries and the Caribbean countries working together with India can become a force multiplier, can become a force for global good, particularly with 25% of the world's population in our collective regions. Of course, that will mean greater collaboration and cooperation even on multilateral fora. Honorable Prime Minister Modi has made a significant outreach and effort to get the global south connected so that collectively over 100 countries of the global south can become a powerful voice on the international stage. We seek your active participation and cooperation on that. And my own experience is that very often we fail each other. We fail to understand each other. We fail to understand how we can work for a better future for each other. I saw at the WTO Ministerial Conference last year how on many areas we were not able to come on the same page despite having very shared interests in many, many areas. And I saw how certain countries were trying to divide the emerging markets or developing world or the less developed countries through small SOPs, or a more appropriate but probably not diplomatic word. Let me steer out of diplomacy. There are just too many countries to take a risk with, but let me stick to SOPs. And they're playing that game so beautifully, dividing us that, okay, on fisheries we will isolate a certain large section of the developing or less developed countries by a de minimis which can address the needs of a few countries and therefore get them on our side and try and foist a fisheries agreement, which in the long run, your future generations will regret to live. Just like India today, though we were a part of that agreement in the Uruguay round on agricultural subsidies, when we were a less developed country, when we did not have very robust systems of capturing the support we give to our agricultural sector, when we did not even have an economy large enough to support our small and marginal farmers, are today at the mercy of the developed world, having signed an agreement 30 odd years ago, the Uruguay round. We are today stuck and are finding that our agricultural people, and nearly 40-45% of Indian population subsists on agriculture, are today at a big disadvantage compared to agriculturists in Europe, in America, in some of the larger European, Asian, or even South American countries. And I can see before my eyes that the same thing will be done, whether it's in fisheries. The same thing is sought to be done when it comes to the e-commerce moratorium. This divide and rule policy is something that I think the global south should be very conscious and cautious about. And we need to stick our heads together. We need to stick along with each other, support each other, so that our voice becomes a powerful voice which cannot be ignored on international fora, something that the foreign minister alluded to in the morning, that global challenges call for all of us to work together, to work as a team. And on the economic landscape, on the economic front, I think more and more opportunities are going to come our way, where we'll be called upon to understand each other, maybe make some compromises when it comes to each other, but not land up creating a situation where we compromise our own friends. And that is the trust I would like to call upon each one of you to reflect upon, to see how we can collectively earn each other's trust, how we can work together, sharing our development imperatives, our development initiatives. And I'm sure if we align with this vision of a collective global south of 100+ countries, if we can all show solidarity to the rest of the world, if we can fight for a level playing field for the emerging economies, emerging markets, less developed countries, where the voice of even a country with a population of less than 1 million people becomes the collective voice of 2 billion people in this room. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, no power on earth can stop our countries and our people from becoming a developed set of countries, from making our people benefit from growth, from prosperity, making growth and prosperity more inclusive for our 2 billion people. And as the global economic order is being rebalanced, as the world is grappling with newer and newer crises, I think it's a great opportunity for us to create a new pole of solidarity, a new pole reflecting our shared interests for our people, and take that message to the rest of the world. Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean and Pacific countries working as a team, working for each other's betterment, our collective cause of a better future for our children, for our next generation, using the wealth that we all have. Some of us have mineral wealth, some of us have talent, some of us have managerial skills, some of us have technologies. When we pool all of this together, when we forge partnerships with each other for the collective good of all our countries, the challenges of poverty, the challenges of climate change, the challenges of unequal growth in the world, challenges of quality healthcare, quality education, our cooperation in areas like IT and in the emerging world, artificial intelligence becoming another big challenge for all of us to address, working together to convert artificial intelligence from a problem to a opportunity which can help us grow faster and take the benefits and fruits of development to our people faster. Exploring areas of cooperation in tourism, as some of our earlier speakers alluded to. Working together to ensure the rule of law prevails. We respect each other's legal systems, rules of law, respect each other's local issues. If all of us collectively go from this 9th CII India-LAC Conclave with this collective resolve on the economic front, at least to begin with, I think we'll be doing great service to our countries. We'll be taking forward a strong message which, if I may quote Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's words, the development journey of India is unstoppable now. In the third term of the government, India will be among the top 3 economies of the world. We would like all of you, just as we have grown from the 10th largest economy 9 years ago to the 5th largest economy today, and are confident that in the next 4 or 5 years, we will be the world's 3rd largest economy, working to expand our economy from a $3.5 trillion economy today to a $35 trillion economy by 2047, when we will celebrate 100 years of our independence. I invite all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to join this journey that India has embarked upon. I invite all of you, distinguished excellencies, to make trade and investment a central pillar of our partnership, of our effort to work together as trusted partners, as friends, expanding our shared interests. And let us take this message to the world, towards which end I'd like to propose a 4-point way forward, an agenda for all of us to reflect upon, to debate upon over the next, I think you continue to have these meetings tomorrow, and maybe at some point we can use video conferencing or other means of communication to continue to remain engaged as a team more frequently than once in a year or 2 years, so that we can understand, create greater understanding amongst each other and come up with a doctrine or a document which will help us further the following 4-point agenda. 1, draw up a roadmap for increased trade flows so that we can be more ambitious and look for faster growth. Look at working with each other in areas of each other's strength. I mean, almost taking Michael Porter's words, that each one of us would have some or the other competitive or comparative advantage to offer. Let's recognize that, bring all of that to the table, and work in that spirit of partnership to exploit newer trade and business opportunities. I'm not looking at a target today, but let that target come from greater engagement amongst all of us and our officials and missions to work out much, much more ambitious targets for the next 5, 7, 10 years at least to begin with. Second, how do we leverage this partnership for greater investment flow in each other's regions? We believe we have a lot to learn from all of you. We believe we have something to offer each one of you. If we can work together on investments, we can strengthen your integration into supply chains where India hopes to play a more pivotal role in the future, and we'll invite your partnership on the investment front also. Tourism and hospitality, ladies and gentlemen, the third point I want to stress upon, are areas where we believe each one of you has tremendous potential and offerings to give. We too in India have a lot to offer on tourism and hospitality. In fact, during our G20 presidency, a new record has been created with over 160 meetings already having been held. I may have lost count, it would be probably closer to 200 meetings already having been held in the nook and corner of India. Over 50 cities spanning every state in the country, every union territory in the country have hosted G20 events, making this an event not just as a central government-to-government event, but today this has become a people's event in India with 1.4 billion people engaged through our G20 presidency and getting encouragement and power from our international engagement. This message of the G20 we have been able to take to the remotest corners of India, and through that we have been able to expose our G20 partner countries and invitee countries to different parts of India and all its rich cultural, historical, traditional offerings, our rich heritage that we have to offer to the world. And finally, I think healthcare is one area where we can work together, we can help expand, grow, and make more affordable healthcare systems across the world. India would be very, very delighted to become your trusted source of affordable medicines and healthcare, for which we can work through mutual recognition agreements, we can work through smarter regulatory practices amongst each other, and not remain hostage to very high cost, expensive medications. We saw during the COVID crisis the behavior of different countries around the world. I need not say more, some of my earlier speakers have talked about it, but I can offer you and I can assure you that India will never let down any of you in your time of need. In Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in all of us, his colleagues working in government, whether at the ministerial level or the official level, but more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, with great conviction and confidence, I extend to you our friendship, not only as the government of India, but on behalf of 1.4 billion people who will be your trusted friends, your partners in progress, and people who will stand with you in your time of need. It is 1.4 billion people's arm of friendship that I am extending to each one of you. Let us work together to script a new success story. Let us all work together to strengthen our mutual ties. Let us all work together to be the beacon of collaboration for the rest of the world in the years to come. Thank you very much, friends, for your patient listening.